Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Legendary Mad Matilda. Get the conclusion to the Spinsterella trilogy in online booksellers today. This video probably will not get monetized by YouTube, so if you could donate $1 or more to my Patreon or my PayPal by clicking the links in the description box, it'd be greatly appreciated. Now, we had 2 more mass murder incidents here in America, and they both relate to the beta male man crisis as I see it. Now, the first incident we had was when one of these white males decided to take out a gun and start shooting in a Walmart. And this guy decided he wanted to go to this Walmart to go on a kill spree. And when it comes down to these beta males, this behavior is becoming more and more common, because whenever a beta male can't get his needs met, get the attention he wants, or can't get his way, this beta male gets frustrated these days, and he takes out a weapon and he starts shooting in places in order to vent his anger, his frustration, and his rage. And this is something that's becoming, again, more commonplace as related to these beta males. And this white male fits the pattern and the profile of previous beta males, like your Elliot Rodger, like your Stephen Paddock, and many other beta males. And this guy, again, went into a Walmart, started shooting, and then, just like many other beta males who didn't have the courage to kill himself, decided to run away after participating in the mass shooting. And he ran away and then eventually got caught, but that shows us how cowardly these beta males are, because these beta males never want to go face to face with people. They never want to try to confront their problems. They want to act out in these temper tantrums in the hopes that people will figure out what they want. And then some of them, after they kill themselves, what they'll do is they'll leave some manifesto or something, making themselves out to be some sort of victim, when in actuality, they're just nothing more than cowards. And your beta male really is a coward. And one of the biggest cowards I saw was here in New York City on Halloween. And we had this beta male terrorist decide he was going to go rent himself a truck and then drive it down some bike lanes to run down people, all in the name of pledging loyalty to ISIL. And his behavior also fits the pattern and profile of other beta males, because when it comes down to the beta male is a very weak male, and your beta male is always looking for something to follow behind. And this terrorist decided he wanted to follow behind ISIL because he was too cowardly to stand up on his own 2 feet and be his own man. So he's using this whole ISIL propaganda as a smokescreen because he has no courage of his own. And what a lot of people need to understand about these Islamic extremists is that these are all primarily beta males. And these beta males participate in these acts of violence because they don't know how to get their needs met. They don't know how to solve problems. And they do not know how to approach things from a logical perspective. When it comes down to the beta male, everything is emotional. And when it comes down to these Islamic extremists, they are some of the most beta males in the world. They look to follow this rhetoric and this cause, and they're not looking at it from a logical perspective. And this guy, who got the opportunity to come to America on a visa, he decides he wants to go out here and participate in this act of violence, not thinking about his wife, his 3 children, and how their needs will be taken care of. No, this guy is so selfish and so narcissistic, he's thinking about following behind this cause instead of trying to lead his own family. So he decides he's going to go rent this truck and then drive it all the way down this bike lane, and he kills 8 people and he injures many more. And the whole carnage ends when this beta male hits a school bus. And after he hits the school bus, he's running out of his truck with these fake paint guns and yelling and ranting. And what he's really doing, again, is showing the world how weak he actually is. Because when it comes down to these beta males, they're always looking to, again, follow behind some sort of cause. And they're always following behind causes because they don't have the courage to lead themselves. And because they don't have the courage to lead themselves, they don't want to go out here and do the hard work. So they always want to stand behind something because they're too afraid to stand on their own. And this guy, he wanted to stand behind ISIL because he did not have the courage to stand on his own 2 feet. Because if this guy was standing on his own 2 feet, he would be sitting there thinking about the needs of his wife, the needs of his 3 children, and how they're going to be taken care of. And he would also be thinking about how their needs would be taken care of while instead of going out here to participate in this act of violence. But your beta male doesn't think about long-term consequences. This is a big problem with your beta male. Your beta male only thinks about the now, and they always live, again, in the world of rose-colored glasses. And I saw that with this beta male terrorist when he was talking about his plans about, running this truck down this bike lane and then running over to the Brooklyn Bridge. That's classic beta male behavior because beta males see the world through rose-colored glasses, and they always have these big, elaborate fantasies of what they want to do, yet they never think about the realities and the consequences of their actions because a beta male does not live in the real world. They live in a distorted, caricaturized, idealized world, and they never think about things like consequences or how their actions affect others. And this is a big problem with your beta males, and this is a big problem as related to the man crisis. This is why I say that these acts of violence are going to continue escalating because, again, when it comes down to your beta male doesn't think about the needs of others. They only think about the needs of themselves. And the way they think about the needs of themselves is extremely distorted. They only think, oh, because things aren't going their way, the world is falling apart. When in actuality, things aren't falling apart. Things are just not going your way, and you just have to find another way to do things. And when it comes down to the beta males, what they do is they want to act out in these acts of violence and these temper tantrums because things aren't going their way. Now, some of these guys feel like their lives have no value. Some of them feel like they have no worth. But their behavior is just inexcusable. And the sad part is that, as I've stated in numerous videos before, this trend is getting worse, and the behaviors are getting worse because these guys, their behavior is really about getting attention for themselves and really acting out in a way to hurt others because they feel hurt about the state of their lives. When I look at the behavior of the guy in Walmart and the guy who decided to run down these bike lanes, I see them no different than your Ku Klux Klansmen back during the period after the Civil War, because your Ku Klux Klansman was another beta male, and he was one who participated in acts of violence because things weren't going his way in the South, and he used his violence to terrorize black people because he couldn't get the economic situation he wanted. So he decided he wanted to be a pawn of someone else's political agenda to get his needs met. No different than this so-called jihadist. He's looking to get his economic needs met through this organization, and he's looking to get validation from this organization. And the whole thing related to this man crisis is, again, these men are acting this way because they don't know how to be men. They don't value themselves as men. They don't see a worth in being a man. So they try to attach onto things to get some sort of attention and validation. And they participate in acts of violence as a way to get attention and validation and approval because they do not know how to get these things in a positive way. And this is one of the big problems as related to this man crisis and this national man crisis here in America, and as I see it, and even in some parts of the world, because this guy immigrated here all the way from one of those Muslim countries, and we see that he's also another part of the man crisis, because when it comes down to these men just do not know how to function, they don't know how to operate, and because they do not know how to function and operate and navigate the world, this is what's leading to them falling apart. We're having a man crisis because men just don't know how to be men. Men don't see a value in being a man. Men don't see a worth in being a man. So they latch on to things like these causes, like the Klan or the ISIL, because they don't know how to stand up and be men on their own. This man crisis is getting worse, and these acts of violence are getting worse because, again, people in America and even abroad don't want to deal with the fact that we have raised 2 or 3 generations of beta males. Beta males who have been socially engineered by gynocentrism and feminism, and beta males who just can't function in the real world. They don't have the life skills, they don't have the coping skills, and they don't understand critical thinking. So they don't know how to filter information, and they take what they read on the internet for gospel truth. This is what your beta males will do when they get so-called radicalized. This is another trait of beta males, is that beta males don't know how to think critically and say, that's just a web page. They take it for the gospel truth. They don't listen to other sources and don't look for facts because they don't have any critical thinking skills. Everything of them is about something meeting their emotional needs and pacifying their emotions. So if they hear rhetoric, they're quick to run to the rhetoric because that's validating their feelings. And this is a big problem with your beta males. Your beta males, they just want to be acknowledged. They want some sort of thing that makes them feel good, but they don't want to do the hard work that makes them grow. And this is another problem, again, related to the man crisis because, again, these men are not being taught right. They're not being raised right. They're not being prepared for life in the world. And because they're not being raised for life in the world, they don't see a value in being part of the world. And that's why they participate in these horrific acts of violence. And until Americans start taking a longer, hard look at this man crisis, we're going to see more and more of these acts of violence. And what's really scary about all these acts of violence is how apathetic people are becoming to them. So instead of us acknowledging the problem, people are becoming indifferent to the problem, and they're just looking at mass shootings as something that goes on every day, when it doesn't have to go on every day. What we need to do is acknowledge that we have a crisis here in America. We have a problem with the way men are being raised, the way men are being taught, the way men are being prepared and for life in the world. And that all, again, relates to the way we are raising males in American society and even abroad, because the way boys are being raised these days is what's leading to much of this dysfunction. And that all has to do with the mother and the teacher of culture. And the reason why we're not really seeing anybody really talk about this man crisis is because most men in this gynocentric society don't want to confront this female about the way they're raising boys, and they don't want to take an active role in shaping this boy or dealing with the woman in the way she is raising this boy. But the way she is raising this boy is leading to him becoming a dysfunctional man. And these dysfunctional men are malfunctioning. And when they malfunction, they go out here and participate in horrific acts of violence and acts of terrorism. And these acts of violence are getting worse because no one wants to confront the women about the way we're raising males, and we don't want to deal with these beta male behaviors and how they are completely destructive to society. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to learn more about men's issues, you can click the link to Amazon.com and pick up some of my books. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.